Hey y'all, welcome back. Today might look a little bit different because I am actually in Virginia and I missed you all. I went on Amazon, bought a ring light, and here we are in the bathroom that I grew up using as a kid. I wanted to share with you today a pretty simple makeup look that I've been doing with some of the products I packed and a little bit of skincare because my makeup routine and my skincare routine have been quite simplified since coming down to Virginia just because I don't like to pack a ton. And I also wanted to feature some of my favorite BK Beauty brushes because about 10 minutes ago I received an email from BK Beauty saying that they are going to be doing their Black Friday Cyber Monday sale and the entire site will be 35% off. I love these brushes a ton. I've bought them all with my own money, so I want to share with you my favorites if you decide to shop at the sale. So without further ado, let's get right into this away from home get ready with me. My skin down here can start feeling a little dehydrated because the water down here is a little bit more hard and my skin can feel a little tight, a little squeaky. So I like to add hydration to my routine without overdoing it. First product I'm using in my morning skincare routine is the serum from It's Skin. This is the Power 10 Formula LI Effector Firefighter 10. This is a hyperpigmentation and redness correcting serum. What I like to do is I will just get one pipette full and rub it all over my face and eyelids. My general thought is if I have concerns with my facial skin, it's to normally extend to the skin of my eyelids and my neck and my chest. So unless it has an active in it like an exfoliant acid or a retinoid, then I normally will take it over my face and neck and eye area all together as unison. That way we're making sure everything's being treated as unison. The next step I'm using is from Agency. This is the dark spot formula. I spoke about Agency in a video. It's something I've seen a lot of other creators talk about here on YouTube. I wanted to fill it out and try it out for myself, and this is not something I can get in Canada. With being back in Virginia for a little while, now's the time to try it. This is the dark spot formula. Mine has a 4% hydroquinone, 4% kojic acid, 3% azelaic acid, 2.5% hydrocortisone, treating, existing, and working to prevent future hyperpigmentation. I like to start with one fingertip. I like to go from the crease of the finger to the tip of the finger, and I will take this, and I love Dr. Sam's 13 dot technique to make sure everything is being spread evenly. I have not figured out the mirror setup here, so I'm going to use the mirror behind my camera and just feather this out. Now, with my eyebrows being microbladed, I don't like to get anything active near them, so I will use my finger, lay it flat, skim around the perimeter. I do not go past the orbital bone with this product since it does include hydroquinone. I want to make sure I'm being a little bit more careful with how I'm applying it. CeraVe Facial Moisturizing Lotion. This is the PM version. That just means it's absent of sunscreen. I use about 4 pumps, and instead of really being dose dependent like I am with that dark spot serum, evenly distribute through my hands and apply all over my face, including my eyebrows, my eyelids, lips, neck, and chest. My next step is always going to be sunscreen because since I am using something with a dark spot correction ingredient like azelaic acid and hydroquinone, I like to make sure I'm preventing future hyperpigmentation. So sunscreen is a non-negotiable, and it should really be in everyone's daily routine as it's a lot easier to prevent this dark spot hyperpigmentation from happening than trying to correct it in the future, and also save you some money because then you don't have to really get into the more expensive active ingredients in office treatment. Sunscreen I'm using is one from Colorescience. This is the Colorescience Sunforgettable Total Protection Face Shield Classic, and this has a broad spectrum SPF 50 and a PA rating of 4+. It does have a tint, but not enough of a tint to really feel makeup-y on the skin. It's more of a tint that, for my skin tone, counteracts any of that white cast since this is a mineral filter. So this is not the full amount. What I like to do just to make blending easier and my application easier is I like to do 2 to 3 thin layers, and that way I can blend out my products. It gives it a moment to kind of sink into the skin, and it's just going to be easier for you to apply, because if you try to apply that full 1/4 teaspoon or 2 milligrams per square centimeter of your face, then it can feel very heavy and it's going to feel like you're blending forever and it's going to look a little bit heavy. So I like to make my life a little bit easier and work in thin layers, and that way you're also making sure that you're avoiding any skip areas. So Since this sunscreen is a little bit more on the pricey side, I only use this on my face and then on my ears, my neck, and my chest, and my hands, anywhere that I don't really need a lot of cosmetic elegance. I'll use a just standard chemical-based sunscreen because it doesn't leave any white cast and it dries down pretty quickly. That is in the bedroom, so I will be applying that one off camera, but no, I'm applying sunscreen to all exposed areas. I find a lot of times with the sunscreen, it gives such a really lovely slip to the skin that if I don't want to use the primer with the foundation, then I don't have to. I find as I get older, the fewer steps that I can take, the better. And I really, especially like not being home, not be with my normal get ready area, I find simplicity is the best for me. I'm back, I'm changed, and sunscreen is dried down. While I was away, Amazon showed up, and I always love when Amazon arrives. So I want to share with you real quick what came in the mail today. First is this year's holiday sponge set from Real Techniques. I've mentioned before, this is my favorite sponge for like a beauty sponge, and I use each sponge for about 3 months before I throw it away, and that's kind of the recommended guidelines for it. In this case, we get 5 sponges and a little sponge case for travel, which would be great for times like right now. So this like little holiday pack will give me beauty sponges for over a year, and it was around $22 if I'm not mistaken on Amazon, so that was a great find. All right, I felt like my camera was up too high. Forgive me if the camera is looking a little off in this video. I'm using a new tripod and a completely different space compared to where I normally do videos where everything is very stationary. Hopefully this is better, the sound is okay. The second item that came in is actually a product one of my very, very sweet subscribers suggested as one of her favorites, and Gladys suggested this e.l.f. moisturizing lipstick in the shade Pink Mink, kind of like a salmony pink. We'll play with this later. I am down here for 3 weeks. I packed a few foundations. I packed way more than I actually need. I packed 3 liquids, 2 powders. The e.l.f. Camo Powder Foundation in shade Fair 125C, my trusty, beloved Laura Geller Baked Balance and Brighten, and I use shade Porcelain. Wet n Wild Bare Focus Tinted Hydrator. I have this in shade Porcelain. I've used this a handful of times. It's okay. I know a lot of people love this, but for some reason, whether it's my sunscreen, my skincare, my primer, my application technique, this just hasn't been looking the best on me, so this might be one we use today. The other one is the Urban Decay Stay Naked Hydromaniac Tinted Glow Hydrator, and I have this in shade number 20 Fair. Okay, so this is supposed to be glowy and hydrating, and for me, I found it sets on top of my skin. I look a little dry, I look cakey, and things don't look hydrated. It's like the very opposite that this is what this is claiming. So I still need to do like a dedicated foundation review on most of these products, but so far I'm not loving this. And then we have the Estee Lauder Double Wear Sheer Long Wear Makeup Broad Spectrum SPF 19, and I have shade 1C1 Cool Bone. Actually, I think this will be the one I want to use today. I'm going to give it a good shake, and this is good. This Estee Lauder foundation is really good. If you are someone who was not the biggest fan of the original Estee Lauder Double Wear, you found it a little too heavy, a little too matte, I find this is the total opposite end of the spectrum. To prime my skin, I'm going to use one of my favorite primers, the NYX Plump Right Back, and I also packed with me my other favorite primer right now, which is also from the brand NYX. This is the Marshmallow Primer. I love these both on their own. This has kind of started to phase out my love for the Tatcha Liquid Silk Canvas. It's also priced, but this gives more of a smooth, slightly mattified effect. Plump Right Back Primer gives more of a dewy, plump, hydrated look to the skin. Something I've been doing and loving is I like to take a pump of the Plump Right Back and then a pump of the Marshmallow Primer. So I'll take them both on the tip of my fingers, and then I will just kind of blend them together, emulsify the product. I have been so happy with how they look, and I've just been running a little bit of this right over my eyelids, and I find it does just as well as the eye primer I packed. Milk Makeup Hydro Grip. You know what, let's just put a little bit of this on. I still don't have a strong opinion on it. I am scraping out the remnant. This has just been a very odd experience. Normally using a makeup product and getting to the point where you've almost used it all up, you would have, in theory, more of an opinion on it. This I really don't have an opinion on. I don't find shadow lasts longer. I don't find it wears away more quickly. I don't find the blend is any easier. It's just very there. It's just, I don't like it. I'm trying to finish this so I can get it out of the collection. One thing I've noticed with this is when you have to give it a really, really good shake. So I always like to shake it vertically and then turn it to the side and shake horizontally. That way everything's just really mixed well together. Compared to the traditional double wear foundation, this foundation has a much slimmer shade selection, which in my mind it makes sense because it is a very sheer formula. You have a little bit more flexibility with it. That is not something I mind. I feel like if this was a foundation I had like in my makeup artist kit for like bridal or something, the shade selection would cover most. Oops, I got too much. Normally I like to apply a foundation with a brush or a sponge. With this foundation, I've been using my fingers, and that's another like little fun fact, if you will. A lot of times when I first start trying out a foundation, I will normally always apply with my fingers the first time around. That way I can kind of feel what the foundation wants to do. This foundation, it has a very thin, very slippy consistency. In a way, applying it with your fingers, it's a very tactile experience that's very reminiscent of something like MAC Face and Body. As it dries down, you will feel it kind of set and mesh with the skin. I really love that feeling. That's something that reminds me of like being in makeup school, and we were taught to really understand how makeup performed, how it functioned, what the texture was like, because a lot of times with makeup and makeup artistry, we are taught to really think about textures, how textures are going to kind of mingle with each other. And with this foundation, the texture is so thin, so slippy, it almost has a slight bit of a silicone-y feeling, which in a way acts like a primer. And I've worn this foundation without a primer, and it does really well. I just have days where I want to use a primer, and since getting those two primers from NYX, I've been a huge primer fan. Here's kind of like one layer of the Estee Lauder Double Wear Sheer Long Wear Makeup in 1C1 Cool Bone applied all over. We're very up close. So I mentioned a moment ago, BK Beauty is going to be running a 35% site-wide sale. Everything will be 35% off. I'm a huge fan of BK Beauty brushes. I purchased my first set of BK Beauty brushes shortly after seeing them talk about some influencers I really trust and enjoy watching it on the platform. For about a year, because I knew they were all synthetic. They were not the most affordable brushes, but they're also not the most expensive. They were kind of that middle ground price point, and I just have so many brushes I wasn't sure if I wanted to buy them. Shortly after I started my YouTube channel in 2021, I decided to buy these for the sake of reviewing, and I like to be very subjective when I'm thinking about things that I was influenced to buy, because through the years I've had products and tools I've loved that other people have tried and they did not enjoy them. So I always like to hold out and kind of make for my own opinions. This brush was the first big standout for me. This is the BK Beauty number 101. This is their contoured foundation, and even though I applied my foundation with my fingers, I still like to use a brush just to go through and smooth everything in, and it will also just like lift off some of that excess coverage that's sitting on top. That makes everything feel more at home and in balance and harmonize with the skin. Where it feels like I packed way too many foundations, I only packed one concealer, and I am loving this concealer. So you have to give it a really good shake. This is the Revolution, or Makeup Revolution Eye Bright Illuminating Under Eye Concealer with Vitamin C in the shade Porcelain. It has a sponge applicator on it. I find you do not need to twist this every time you use it because there is some residual product left. So I just like to kind of wiggle into the inner corner of my eye, and I'll run a little bit under my brow, and then right at the outside corner where I like a little bit of lift, right there to lift up some shadowing, and then right here in the little glabellar area. Today I feel like a little bit right on the forehead. Now you can easily stick with using the BK Beauty number 101, but the other brush from BK Beauty I really love. This is the BK Beauty 8506, and this is from their collaboration with Angie Hot and Flashy, who was the influencer or content creator that really sold me on BK Beauty. And in general, Angie's channel is just a channel I really enjoy. I love the amount of research she puts into her skincare content, and I love that over the last 10 years, since she's turned 50 and now she's 60, that she has been so open and documented things from like her IPL, which was I think her first big series that she documented, to experience with Botox, fillers, at-home devices like the New Face and the Kinsey or LED mask. She's done such a wonderful job creating content that I really trust and enjoy, and her products have worked really well for me. Well, the products that she suggested. As far as I know, I think this collaboration with BK Beauty was her first kind of like collaboration. That brush originally came out in her 6-piece set, and then a few months ago they came out as available as singles. I love the whole set. The only brush I'm not a huge fan of is I think it's the flat one that I think it's like her shimmer brush. I'll use it here and there. It's just not a brush that I use, but all the other ones I really love. So now I'm going to use my foundation brush again just to press over any seams and make sure everything has blended, and the residual foundation on my brush will help everything blend in together. When Angie's brush set first released, I did order it on the first day, and a few months later through, oh my goodness, is it called CeraVe? I think that's the affiliate marketing platform, but CeraVe is one of the platforms that creators can use to create affiliate links and make small commissions on their channels. And through them, I was able to become a BK Beauty affiliate. I don't have a discount code or anything. I have the link. If you want to use them, you can. If you want to use those links, it doesn't change the price of the brush, but I do earn a small commission. And if you use that link and through the Black Friday sale, then you would get the 35% off site-wide, which you don't need a code for, and I would make a small commission. So it's like a win-win, but definitely not something you have to do. For powder, the only powder I packed with me is this little powder from the brand Rom&nd. This is their Better Than Finished powder in translucent, and it is a very typical little translucent powder in a cushion compact formulation. I'm going to use my BK Beauty 103. This is their bronzer brush, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm being totally honest, on vacation, this is like, if it's powder, it works with everything. I use this to set my face. I can pinch it to use it for highlight. I can use it to bronze or contour the face. I apply blush with it. I will buff my foundation out at the end of my routine with it. It is just such a wonderful brush. When I'm back home and I have all of my other brushes at my disposal, and I kind of have this brush is for this purpose, this brush is for this purpose. I do use this the most for bronzer, just because I like how fluffy it is, and I like how I can get a really diffused look with it. So good. I love how this looks. Next, I'm gonna use a product that my husband actually bought for me when he was in Vegas. He knew I wanted it, but he knew I did not want to spend the money on it. So when he was in Las Vegas recently, he popped by Sephora. He was rummaging through my wish list, and he saw that I wanted this WESTMAN Atelier pressed powder in the shade Bubble. So he picked it up for me, and it wasn't available in stores, so he ordered it online and had it shipped here to my parents' house. And then when I got here, it was like, oh, there's a little surprise for you. And it's really nice. I just use this under my eyes just to kind of set concealer and brighten things up, because I like the eye area to look brighter, because I feel like it just makes the eyes look a little bit bigger. Subtle, doesn't do a lot. It's really pretty. I enjoy it. Once it runs out, will I run out and spend another however many dollars it is? I think it's like 75 US and 90 or $100 Canadian. Would I spend that much for it full price? No. If I can get it on sale, maybe. Next, I'm gonna use the MAC Studio Fix Plus Powder Foundation, the shade N4. For the longest time, this was the shade I used as foundation in the MAC Studio Fix line. But I found through the last couple years, as I've really stepped up my skincare game, worked on brightening and balancing my skin tone, this shade was getting a little too dark for me. So now in this powder foundation, I use shade N3, but N4 is slightly darker. Like this might be a shade and a half darker. Maybe in the summer it will be about a half a shade darker. But what I've been using this for a lot is as a very, very subtle contour kind of bronzer product. Because as I've gotten older, and more so in this last year, I've just found myself, I don't love bronzer like I used to. And you know, there's a lot of reason that goes into. I have bronzers that I love and I cherish and I have in my collection, but on average, the way I do my makeup in my everyday life, I'm very kind of quick slap and dash, because normally I don't give myself enough time to properly sit down and get ready like I would if I'm recording a YouTube video. Normally I am like, oh goodness, I'm going to be late. I should have left like 5 minutes ago, so let me throw on something in the next 5 minutes. With that, I have really started using powder foundations that are slightly too dark for me, and I find it just creates the most beautiful, natural effect, and the blend does not have to be perfect. I am using the same BK Beauty brush, and this is my Laura Geller Baked Original Highlighter in the shade French Kiss. Highlighting, I've been doing this more as like a two-step approach, so I'll do my first layer with my BK Beauty 103 bronzer brush. Then I will flip over to the BK Beauty number 108, which I think this is like a tapered powder brush or something. I like this as a highlighter brush, so I will use this just on the very high point of my cheek. Since it's a little bit more dense, it will deposit more product, which I enjoy because I can get a little extra impact. And since this is a baked highlighter, and Laura Geller, I find a lot of her products are kind of targeted more towards mature people, but that doesn't mean anything. Anyone can use any product. But since the demographic for her kind of range feels a little bit more mature, there isn't really any intense shimmer or sparkle in her product. So these baked original highlighters, what I find is they add a nice highlighted illuminated effect to the skin, but it's almost more in a way that they reflect and refract light that gives a glow to the skin without adding shimmer or glitter. It's just very beautiful, and it has a little bit of a smoothing property. Most of you know I love blush, and I have more of a more is more philosophy when it comes to blush. So I love double blushing. So first I'm going to use a blush that I have been in love with. It's been on my wish list for a while, and I recently picked it up during the sale. This is from Bobbi Brown. This is in the shade Sand Pink. Stunning shade. And what sold me on this is one of my really good friends. She used to be a representative and then an educator for the Bobbi Brown brand. We had gone out to dinner for a few times, and then her cheeks looked so beautiful. Like, it didn't matter if it was like bright sunlight, dim sunlight, or overhead lighting in a restaurant. Her blush looked so good. And then I was like, what was the blush that you wore when we went here? What was your blush when we went there? Or what is the blush that you're wearing today? And then she's like, I always wear the same blush. I've used it since I worked for Bobbi. And I'm like, what is this blush? I need it. She's like, it's Sand Pink. And I'm like, okay. So then I got it, and then she messaged me. She's like, oh wait, I also really love this shade Slopes, which from what I've kind of found online, that looks a little bit warmer. It's like a warm kind of matte peachy pink. And then I've seen recently it popped up in some suggestions for the soft autumn color palette, which isn't the best colors for me. I'm more of a light summer teetering into a cool summer, which means I do best in kind of slightly desaturated cool tones, neutral to cool tones. Anything too warm I tend to struggle with. I'm gonna stop my blush here before I get out of hand. And then I like to use that brush I use for my everything else, it seems, and soften that down. But it's just such a beautiful soft color. I do love a good pop right on the apple of the cheek to really add some vibrancy and vitality to the face. For that, I'm going to be using the Dior Backstage Rosy Glow Blush. This is shade 001 Pink. I'm going to use the BK Beauty 103 again, just because it's bigger, it's fluffier. It'll give me less product payoff, and it's right on the front of the cheek. Buff, buff, buff. Wrap it into the hairline. I never thought this would happen because it's such a bright pink, but you can see I'm starting to wear off the embossing, which that always thrills me because I've had some products where I'm like, oh, I love this, but it always looks brand new. I mean, I'm very kind of gentle with how I put my brushes into product. I'm not someone who like digs my brush in. I tend to like kind of pat or gently wipe. So I don't really disturb a lot of appearances of a pan until I really start wearing through it. So when I saw I was starting to wear through my Dior Rosy Glow, I'm like, okay, price is justified. Clearly, I really enjoy this. Well, I just had a laugh. And that's because a moment ago I mentioned that the BK Beauty Angie Hot Flashy kind of shimmer brush was my least favorite, and it That's the one I packed. I thought I packed the A501, which is like a flat packing brush, but I appear to have grabbed this one instead, and then the A503. But that's okay. I'm going to show you how I use these to create a basic everyday eye look. And while I've been down here, I did place another order and picked up some singles from Sydney Grace. When I get back to Toronto, I want to combine these with the other shades I picked up, but I wanted to add some color to my life. And to be honest, this yellow shade down here called Tangy Citrus really kind of kicked it off for me. It was the shade that made me want to place an order. So I'm going to use some of these and we are going to create a look. So that lipstick color I want to use, it's a little bit more on the kind of, it looks like a slightly warmer pink. So I'm going to use the shade Dream Maker, which is a kind of warm toned beigey, and I'm just going to pick it up on the side of the BK Beauty A505, and I'm gonna work that right over the lid. You can kind of see this brush, it really lays down the shimmer. It's a stiffer, flat synthetic brush. I mean, all the BK Beauty brushes are synthetic, but this has a density to it that really, it's almost like using your finger to press a shimmer on, but compared to your finger, you get a little bit more control. Something I do really enjoy about these flat brushes like this, and it's something I never really think about until I start using them, is where it's so stiff, you can almost use it to carve out a new lid. So you're almost getting that kind of cut crease effect to exaggerate the space that you have on your eyelids, but you only have to use one brush and a shadow. The other brush I cannot live without. This is this, next to the A506, which is the concealer brush I talked about a little bit ago, the A503, which is the large blending brush. This has been such a standout from the BK Beauty Angie collaboration. I just love using this to blur and blow out any lines I have from shadows and call it a day. I want a little bit more warmth on the eyes, a little bit of a slightly deeper color, so I'm gonna use another single from Sydney Grace. This is called Pumpkin Spice Latte, which isn't that just appropriate for fall. I'm gonna use this right here on the outer corner and kind of use it to start building that slightly angled wing shape that I like to lift my eyes, and pull it about halfway across. I'm gonna use my blending brush again just to blow that out. Now, since my overall undertones are more cool, I want to add a shot of coolness to the eyes just to keep everything feeling in harmony. So I'm gonna use the shade Haven from Sydney Grace. This is like a pinky, plummy, mid-tone pink. Oh my goodness, it looks quite pigmented on my brush, but we're gonna see what happens. So I'm just gonna take it on the point of my brush. Oh, okay, that's not stark at all. Okay, so used with the light hand, this will do really well. And I'm gonna really kind of overlap that orangey shade to create a third color, which will be a little bit more neutral since we are layering warm and cool. They will kind of counterbalance each other to create something more neutral. My goodness, so in this bathroom, the main light source is this large light that you might see over here in the corner. It's like an old school heat lamp, and it is warm in here. So I'm just gonna keep blending this so we can wrap up a little bit quickly before I start like sweating to death. And just to ground and add a little bit more neutrality to it, I'm gonna use the shade Winter Wonder, which is more of a cool tone, kind of grayish taupe. And I'm just gonna place that in the very outer corner to add a little bit more contour and build into about halfway through the crease. Now, I feel like it would be a true disservice if to all of you and the shadow, after saying that I wanted to do this because I loved the shade Tangy Citrus so much, I'm gonna use this as my inner corner highlight. So I like to kind of pack it on like, and then I'm just gonna ground everything, take my brush that I've been using for blending, no extra product, and buff right on top. The best way I can think to describe this tangy citrus color is, it's almost like a cross between a soft pastel yellow and lemon. It's like a soft pastel lemon yellow. It's just stunning. It's definitely more of a cool toned yellow, and where my eyelids are a little bit more on the reddy pink side, they neutralize that yellow tone a little bit, since yellow and red will kind of neutralize each other, and it gives me just the most perfect like champagne highlight color. It's stunning. Okay, eyeshadow done. I've been liking a good tight line lately, so I'm gonna use my Laura Mercier. This is the Tight Line Cake Eyeliner in Blue Marine. Looks like this. And then I have the Laura Mercier Tight Liner Flat Brush. Now, with being in a bathroom, I'm able to just dampen my brush at the sink and then remove most of the moisture on my hand. And then I can go in and pick up some of that powder. And with this, I just like to use it as a very subtle tight line. And with this brush, I don't really press or wiggle in at the lash line. I will almost go in, set it at the root, and then pull up. And I only do about the outer half. Quick, simple. If anything kind of migrates up, I will use my finger just to smudge over, add a little bit of a smokiness to it. Actually, looking in the mirror behind the camera, I feel like I need to go a little bit further in towards the center on my left eye. For mascara, it's my holy grail favorite discover of 2022. This is the Rom&nd All Fix Mascara in Long Ash, which is like a slightly gray brown. For lip liner, I'm going to use a lip pencil I picked up during the Sephora sale. This is the Huda Beauty Lip Contour 2.0 in shade Muted Pink. Now we are going to try out Gladys's suggestion, which is the e.l.f. Moisturizing Lipstick in the shade Pink Minx. Once again, really beautiful color. Almost like a slightly lighter version of the color that my parents painted the bathroom walls in here. Really pretty shade. A little bit warmer than I normally go for, but that is very easy to kind of adjust. I'm going to use my NARS Afterglow Tinted Lip Balm in the shade Fastlane, which is like a cool blue pink. Ready. That is going to complete this look. I really like the lip color. A little bit warmer than I would normally go for, but I feel like when I get back to Toronto, if I use my NYX Epic Wear Lip Pencil in the shade Fierce Flirt, which is like a pale, cool toned bubblegum pink, and line and fill my lips under, put this on top, and then put a clear, like a more cool tone gloss on top, this will be like a really beautiful neutral nudie lip color, because this lip color, a little bit warmer than I would normally go for, but it is stunning. It is so beautiful, and it's e.l.f. The price point is phenomenal. So here's the final look. I hope this background is okay for all of you for a little bit. I'm going to be in Virginia a lot more because with my mom's journey, she's going into surgery soon, so I will be here a lot more. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care of yourself wherever it is you are in the world, and I will see you later. Bye, y'all.